Welcome everyone to Conversation with Abdellah Taïa. I'm Dale Peck, but it's really all about him. I thought someone was introducing us, so I didn't prepare any introductory notes, but Abdellah Taïa is a Moroccan memoirist, primarily, writing in French. His first translated book in English, I believe, is Salvation Army, and next year you have a new book coming out called An Arab Melancholy.
Thanks, too.
Excellent. So. As the program said, this is just called A Conversation, so we are just going to have a conversation, and then towards the end of the program we'll open it up for questions as well. So I want to start with what seems to be all over your your biographical notices, which you're described as Morocco's first openly gay autobiographical writer. Now we've lost. Now it's back. I was walking on the street the other day and I ran into Aaron Hicklin, the editor of Out magazine, and he told me actually that the way that you became Morocco's first openly gay writer it's a little bit of a surprise. You were doing an interview with Telkel, and do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Bonjour tout le monde. I don't know. The question is when I came out publicly as a homosexual. That was in 2006, January 2006, in Morocco. My second book, Le Rouge du Tarbouche, came out there. It was very successful. The Moroccan TV, 2M, which is the most popular in Morocco, invited me to two TV programs. But I think the people who invited me didn't read the book because... Because if they read it, they would saw that there is homosexuality talking about in sincere and open way. And in this book, I even talk about the love for my brother and that I want to be in his room already. But they invited me to that two TV programs, and these two programs were broadcasted. Yeah. Several times in Morocco, and so as I became within like 2 months, I'm not going to be a sensation, but something like this new Moroccan writer. Yeah. So 2 months later, another Moroccan publisher republished my book in a paperback edition like this. The book will be not expensive for Moroccan people, because the books are very expensive in Morocco, especially the ones written in French language. So I went there. It was January 2006, and one of the journalists of the magazine Telkel, and Telkel is very important magazine in Morocco, and it's the magazine that is helping to break all the taboos in the Moroccan society, the political ones, the ones about sexuality and about homosexuality. They already talked about homosexuality in general in Morocco. With me, they found the nice, poor guy, not that rich Moroccan guy who will go to Paris to have sex with men and go back to Morocco and never talk about that. So they just said, well, we read your book, and there is, among other things, there is homosexuality in it. So we want to make a portrait of you as, from that point of view. I mean, as you are homosexual. So do you mind? And I do remember very well. It was in a cafe called Le Café de France in Casablanca. Just to give you an idea, in France, in Morocco, there is always a Café de France, until now. And if you are lost in Morocco, just find a Café de France and you will find your way.
Okay.
And maybe even something else. Because Casablanca, le Café de France, and I didn't know that, I swear, is the place where gay Moroccan go to a cruise or to find men. And even some, if you are coming from another city like, I don't know, Salé or Fès, and you go to Casablanca and you have no place where to sleep in, just go to Café de France and you will be sure to find someone. Or if you don't find someone, the coffee is open all night. anyway, that's very important to say because I didn't know that I was coming out in publicly in Morocco in a place that has already gay vibes, if I might say, already in it. So she asked me the question, do you mind talking openly about your homosexuality? So, of course, I understood immediately that this is a big deal. This is about about this a moment. It's a big moment that I never thought that one day I will be able to. I will come out. I will just speak about homosexuality. Before that, I was just writing, and because for me, and I guess for all the writers, to write is about the truth, your own truth, what you experienced, and it doesn't matter if other people don't agree with that. You just say what you have to say and do it. So I thought that this moment, when she asked that question, I had to be truthful with my writings. I had no right to write something in the book, and when the book comes out, to pretend that it's not in the book. Mm-hmm. And because my generation, I'm 37 years old, and suffered so much from this separation between culture and us, books and us, it seems like nothing was done to push us to write and to read and to. I don't know if you get what I say.
Oh, yeah.
It's like this. I was always so angry with the Moroccan intellectuals, with the Moroccan divas, with all these people. It seemed like they were all recuperated by the power, by the government, by the kings. And I found that it's very inspiring to be gay and not be recuperated one day by the king.
Yeah. Okay.
So I said yes, because no one they would not invite me because I was the gay one.
Yeah,
so okay, let's have this moment, and let's just face the truth and the world, and we'll see what will happen. And what happened after that was, of course, beyond what I imagined that will happen.
So what happened?
Well, first the portraits appeared on the magazine while I was in Morocco, promoting the book. So I do remember very clearly that it was Saturday, and I was in Tangiers, the city of Tangiers. And I went out from the hotel, Rembrandt Hotel, and I bought the magazine. I just couldn't believe it. I mean, you open the magazine, and there you are in the front. There are 2 pages. One page, my face, naked face, and these words about me. So I came back to the hotel, and I swear, I closed the doors, the windows, and I even put the canapes and the chairs against the door, because you have to understand that I'm coming from a really poor family, and meaning by that, I grew up in that fear that I am nothing, I will be nothing, nothing will happen to me, to become a writer, something like so far from, and suddenly to be in that moment and I was afraid of maybe the policeman will come and
arrest
and he pushed that door, and so at least I found I will hear them. It will be that's the door and the table holding for a moment. Maybe I will jump from the window or something. But I was really. I don't know if it's funny to tell it, but it was not funny to leave it because I was really scared. A lot of writers talked about homosexuality in Arab writers, in their books, but it was just like a part of the book. But suddenly, here I come, without deciding it, I was in that moment, and I have already to face the consequences, meaning I knew that I am going to be lonely more than I have imagined. More than that, these years of the childhood and the adolescence where I was really lonely and in the middle of my house. But suddenly I felt that there will be a lot of misunderstandings that coming up, and that I will be defending and be that in that homosexual role. Of course, the writing thing will help, but I will be that's it. And some newspapers, but not a lot. But I will not this homosexuality thing. They will try put it in. He's just gay, not be seen by the other writers or the intellectuals as something like that. It has, of course, it is me, but it's not only me, and it has to do with everyone, even the heterosexual people. So that was that frightening night in Tangiers. And of course, every time I started to put hats, and I thought that to put sunglasses is not, ça ne pourrait pas me cacher enough. It will not, I will be recognizable with sunglasses. The stars, when they put sunglasses, like, look at me. So we are movie stars or singer stars, but with the hat, they would take, he's just good Muslim or something like that. And I do remember something else, that at that moment I remember that other moment in around 15 when I decided that I can't be that boy they want me to be, the society, meaning effeminate, and all the frustrated men will come and to me and would have just sex with me, and I didn't want to be that because I saw examples of that in the neighborhood, and so I had to decide I will not be that. So I just stopped seeing all these people and children I used to hang out with sexually, if I might say, and all these places where I used to experiment so many things when I was a child, and suddenly when I was 13, it became like you have to be a man. But they became men, and they wanted me to be that little girl, boy, little girl, something like that, to have, not to have sex with, to destroy me, actually. This is like a social destruction.
Yes, yeah.
To destroy someone and to be that guy who will be used as for the men and for the society like this. There will be no sexual troubles in the society. Anyway, I decided I will not be that boy. And so I stopped being effeminate. That was the first decision, which meaning, I don't know, I stopped talking with my hands. Well, here in America, we are in freelance, so I can't talk with my hands. and the other decision, and that, I think, that saved me a lot. I just, I don't know how to, baisser la tête? Yeah, now when you are walking the street, you walk like this. You don't see anyone.
Yeah.
And like this, even the way they saw you, it's not important. They don't exist, these people. So this came back in January 2006. That was in French, and a month later, I did the same thing in Arabic, in Moroccan Arabic newspapers. And that was the big deal, to say that in Arabic, in Moroccan newspapers, and that's where my mother called me and said, what did you do? And
did your mother know you were gay before this?
I think they all.
But you never told her?
No. You know, there is no way to talk about anything that deals with individual or you. I mean, not only for homosexuals, for everyone, heterosexuals, all people. So I love my mother. It's just
it comes through very much in your writing.
Yeah. I'm inspired from. She's a real dictator, and I think as a writer, we need to be a dictator too, as to have a role model to follow. So as a writer, I follow la dictature of my mother. So, but on that day when she was calling, when you are another dictator, one has to step back. Well, I am the son. I had to step back. There is no, and she's screaming, ah, ah, ah. And in Arabic, it's like, well, my Arabic and Morocco Arabic, when we speak, well, we scream. It's not speaking. Like if you see us speaking, it's like we'd say, "Who are these savages?" And we are the savages, and I love that. No, I love that. No, I love when I say the savages, meaning that we are in another relation with Earth. For the other people would say we are savages, but because they don't know us. But this is our way of being in life. That we are there and we speak loud, and there is no way to be ashamed of that. This is our way to be, and to speak loud. Why not? I don't know. When I say we are the savages, they said we are the savages. So okay, I am the savages. Okay. Why not?
So you own it.
Yeah. I hope you got what's the difference. Somehow I am not a savage, but anyway, let's go back to the phone. And so she said, I stepped back and she said, why did you say that? Why we are not like that? So I just told her I couldn't say anything but this. It's not only about me. It's not about me. It's about society. It's about Moroccan society. And that's when she answered, but we are not Moroccan society. Who are we to say that we are Moroccan society? Meaning that no one taught us that the society is us, and we can influence the society to change it. And it doesn't belong to the king or to the ministers. But for me, I had to come to this point by myself and to face my mother and to tell her as a coming out, yes, I am Moroccan society too.
So, I mean, I think that's a really interesting point. I was reading, you say that you came to books through your father, who worked at a library, but he worked at a library as a janitor. So, I mean, how did you go from being a poor person who thought of himself as not part of society to someone who could assert himself as an individual, as an intellectual, as a writer? I mean, what was the transformation or the journey?
Well, the right word is transformation, because it has to do really with that. At one point you decide something, and you just keep doing that thing, whatever happens. So my father was, I don't know what the name in English is, shaush. You know, someone in an office who brings tea to people, or I don't know, someone who in that library, you know, who takes the books and put them in the...
Okay. Yeah.
Clerk,
I think.
Clerk.
No?
Well, just someone who...
Yes.
Let's say it's something very low class, but...
Gal Friday.
Gal Friday, so
okay.
That was my father. And so I think he was in this big library called Al-Khizana Al-Amma. It's La Bibliothèque Générale. It's very important in Morocco. The archives are there, etc. And when I was born,
Yes.
They were living there. They give them 2 rooms in the back of that library. And so my first year as person, I spent it there. Of course, they told me this story, and now I can make a myth of it.
Yes. Born among books.
Yeah,
yes.
And I think all the writers do that.
Yeah.
There is no shame to
Yes.
do that.
Okay.
It's all about reinterpretation and reinvention, and so. But this didn't mean that I had that dream to become a writer or anything. Until now, it's very hard for me to consider myself as a writer. It's just something that came like that in French, and I have always the feeling that very soon I will have nothing to say and I will stop writing. I'm just now a writer because I went to Paris to live there, and of course, the distance and to be far from Morocco made me think about so many things. And a lot of things just came back. I didn't think about them before. And even the things I used to hate in Morocco, in my family, in my sisters and the neighborhood, suddenly I was able to see them as structures, as narrative things, as literary things. And my world, that poor world in Morocco, became a huge world for me as a literary thing. So I just decided to continue that. But how did I start to write? Why did I do it in French? It's because some of my friends here know this. It's because of the French movie star Isabelle Adjani. She is so beautiful. I don't know if you know her. She's heavily, it's creature possessed. You feel like this Moroccan genes, spirits, she's got them. When you see her face, she's got this Moroccan possessed way of being and even of playing characters. So one day I found a magazine in the bedroom of my big brother. It was the French movie magazine called Première, and that issue was from the 70s. And she was there on the cover. And it was when the film by Nosferatu came back. It's Werner Herzog movie with Klaus Kinski and her, and she was playing the character of Mina. So in the film, she's already haunted. So, and in the cover of the magazine, she was like my sister who is possessed by spirit. And in French, we say a jinn. How we would say that in English? Spirits, but in jinn. But in an Arabic word, in Morocco, we make this difference. Spirits here, it has nothing to do with death. We believe that there is the human beings and there are lijnoun, the jinn. So we always live with this idea that they are there, and some people have the ability to be in touch and in contact with them, and to be the go-between. Mm-hmm. So there are, in all Moroccan families, the rich ones, the poor ones, countryside, there is always someone who is possessed. And usually it's women. No, there is no thank you, it's just the reality. I've never seen any when I say it's women, it's because I think it's more, they are the more interesting human being anyway on earth, and much more than men, because they are the ones who are facing the reality with courage and inspiration. That's what I lived in Morocco, and I still believe in the same time until now. And so what was I saying?
How you came to writing French and Isabelle Adjani.
Yes, so Isabelle Adjani was possessed, so I could relate to her, because she was possessed like my sister is possessed by jinn. So I could I wait for that moment where her body will fall down and the jinn that is haunting her will speak. And I think somehow this is a metaphor of writing and playing a character in a movie or something like that. So I decided one day I will go to Paris and I will live under the same sky of Isabelle and as Isabelle. I think I was like 13 or 14. So I decided I will go to Paris and I will be a filmmaker and I will be living in the same city as Isabelle Adjani. This is very naive, but I prefer to say this story rather than to say I loved Arthur Rimbaud and Marcel Proust and I don't know, Guy de Maupassant. And these writers don't need my help. They are already there. But Isabelle Adjani still needs my help.
Have you met her yet?
Very, very much. I think especially today, the arts criticizing her so much. This Botox and the la chirurgie esthétique and all these things. Yeah. And it makes me furious because society is always criticizing women, and society is pushing women to be beautiful, to be like this. When they do something, they criticize them. And there are there is nothing about on men. I mean, there are so many men with the Botox, and no one is saying anything. Why only women, and why only Isabelle Adjani?
Have you written about this?
Of course, I wrote. I wrote a short story called Isabelle Adjani. Well, I dream about her, and I made her come to Salé, and I introduced her to my mother, to my sister, and after that we ended up in the mausoleum of a saint in Salé, the most famous one called Sidi Ben Asher, and it's the saint for crazy people. Okay. Anyway, Isabelle Adjani came, and I completely related to that, and I decided to learn French, and I will go one day to Paris and to study cinema. And when I got my baccalaureate, I sent a letter to that famous school in Paris, and they told me that I need to study 2 years in university to have le DEUG, to be able to come to Paris and to pass the concours. And anyway, I had no money even to go to Paris. So I just decided to study French literature in the University of Rabat, Mohammed V. And when I arrived there, I realized that my French was really poor. I couldn't write properly in French. So I decided to start a journal, a diary, just to see how is it like to write something with French words. And I did that for many, many years. And I couldn't go to Paris, so I continued studying French literature. And one day, writing came from that diary, that journal. I never dreamed to be a writer or decide to be a writer. Never took a book and said, okay, let's see what this writer is, how he does write. And later, I found out that Isabelle Adjani's father was Algerian and her mother is German. So this idea that she is French, but she is reinventing French, the identity of French, and being French. And to be French, it's not only for French people, it's something else. So I'm sorry I speak too much.
No. You make my job very easy, thank you. So you write in French? Yeah. Yes.
Yes, that's what we are here for.
Yeah. So you write in French, and I'm curious. Do you think about your audience as you write? Do you think your audience is French? Do you think it's Moroccan? Do you think it's gay? Do you think it's Isabelle Adjani?
No, I don't. I don't think of the audience at all. What I think about is images of movies. I don't think about other examples of literature. I have several. I'm full of movie images, and when I was little, we had only TV. There was nothing to do. We were only poor there. I mean, now I can see that at the time things were interesting enough, were happening. But when I was there, I was just the poverty. So there was no books, nothing interesting happening, no place to go to, etc., except the TV. So the TV at the time was started at 6 p.m. and ended at 11:30 p.m. So we were waiting for these images to arrive on the TV, like it really holy things. And during the night after TV finished, I used to, because this is very naive, because I told myself I'm going to be a filmmaker. So let's start to do something. So I used just to watch these images of TV and to try to learn them by heart, to memorize them, while I am watching them. And in the nighttime, in that little room with 6 sisters around me, and my mother somewhere, and little brother somewhere, and my father asking for sex far away, and my mother, no sex tonight. And I used just to, not to recall, but yes, to recall all these images, and to say, like, for instance, there is this scene, let's see, Marilyn Monroe, she in the 7-year age. She is in, the 7-year age, Yes, of course, when she is, ooh, ah. You know, because she has no air conditioning in the first floor, so she goes downstairs on the floor of that other guy who sent his wife and his son to vacation. So he's like attracted to her, but who can't be attracted to Marilyn Monroe? So let's say she arrives. I try to remember everything, all that scenes, and she says she did that, she was wearing that, and why she did that, and she said, and I just like remember everything, and somehow rewriting that thing. So I think, but when I was doing that, it was not in order to be a writer. It was in a naive way, because that was the only images I had, and not of Marilyn Monroe. I just gave you an example of Marilyn Monroe because you can relate to that. But most of them was Egyptian movies and Egyptian TV series. I think here you have no idea how Egypt is very, very important to the Arab world, and we lived in movie stars, the singers from Egypt, and they are very, very, very important to us. So during the night, I would just recall and rewrite that, and I think that's what
got it started.
Brought something literary somehow without me deciding it.
So, you sent me an essay to read called "The Wounded Man," and there's a line in there that's very powerful. You say extreme in the control that sex exerts over all bodies. And in the novel that I've read, or the memoir that I've read in the story, you write about sex a lot, but you write a lot about before sex and after sex, not so much the actual act. It's a tremendous force in the writing. So I'm going to sort of put you on the spot, and what is it about sex in the writing that animates you so much?
Well, I grew up in a large family. So in the beginning, we had only one room. We were 6 sisters, 2 brothers, and me, 9 children, and the parents, 11, in one room for a long time. So this is the word for me. My body next to other bodies. And these bodies were my sisters and my brothers. But when we were inside of that, these frontiers were between bodies were not clear. Were not outside the home. It was defined, settled, and the brother, the sister, the mother. But in the house, several things, 3 were happening. And I don't mean by that we were having sex with each other. It's just the fact that to be in one room with so many people in one room, things happen. I mean, you just witnessing and seeing other people's bodies and living every day, sweating, changing clothes. You see something, there are signals coming from their bodies. And these signals have nothing to do with the morality, what they told you, this is the right Islam, what the society would tell you how you have to be. So there was always this contradiction between what was happening outside and what was happening inside. And inside of that house, so many things happened, and the whole atmosphere was, it was sexual, but again, not in terms that we were having sex with each other. It was just like this, the bodies were experimenting things and expressing things without words, and these signals struck me so very much. So later we had 3 rooms, but we had 2 dictators in our house. My mother and her beloved son, the older son, Abdel Kabir. So she decided they will give him an room because she said, he's the older son and we are only girls, including me. So because he had now to enter to see that the intimacy of the body, the girls' bodies. Yeah. I had that chance. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying these things because I think to write and to be an artist or something like had to be with somehow an alienation. Something was alienated at some time. So that's where I was alienated about the sexual thing, and that's where I learned, I discovered, because there is no moment where I discovered that I'm homosexual. It just where I was homosexual first. And this is very important to me, that being homosexual doesn't mean that I want to be only with the people I'm attracted to. Being homosexual is inside of my family first, because the world for so many years was only that milieu. And even though I was dreaming and drinking so much about Isabelle Adjani, I never thought that my dreams will come true one day.
So you write very frankly in Salvation Army about some of your earliest sexual longings being directed towards your older brother, he's 12 years older than you or more?
He's more. He's now 56. Oh. I am 37, but 19 years.
Yeah. So has he read this? Did he react to this?
Well, he doesn't speak to me.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to see anymore. But I told you before that he was the other dictator. But he's got something specific about him, that he was silent. My mother was the talky one, and he was silent in that room. And he had in that room records, books, etc. I don't want to shock anyone, but because I do really believe that us, as we are the society tries to tell us this is what we are in this moment. If we were born in 19th century, we had something else, and if we are born in 15 years or something like that. So one day, I was watching TV, and it was this program about les varices for women. How we say les varices? It's very this word, and someone told that in order not to have this when you are old, you have to lie down and put your legs
up on the wall. Yeah.
Up on the wall. So I started to do that. I told myself, okay, this will be one disease less in the future. And while I was doing that, and I think it has with the blood circulation, one day I got this revelation. For me, it's la révélation. I understood what I just said, that me as an individual, I'm not only this Abdellah, Muslim, Arab, Moroccan. I could have been something else if I were born 400 ago or something like that. And more than that, I can be, that was the first thinking. And if I was born like 1,000 years, I would be different. So meaning that what I am now is just a mask. And more than that, I can take off that mask and I can be related to that Abdellah who was born 1,000 years ago. And more than that, I can even be related to that first man God created, or I don't know who, or that's, and I don't know, maybe, I don't know if it's you got what I say. Suddenly, I realized that I'm coming from that man. He was writing that book when he had the accident, the car accident. So the book didn't come out until the mid of the 90s. And the book title is Le Premier Homme. And what is it about? It's just he's talking about his poor family in Algiers, and his retarded family. His mother was semi-retarded, and his brother, and so was his grandmother. So he just talked about that milieu, how he dealt the Albert Camus, we knew about that, and talking about it, and how becoming somehow le premier homme, the first man, because he will be so far from that world, but somehow he will come back to that first world. This is very important. If I had only one book to pick, that would be that one.
Yeah. I want to just ask one more question. The audience, I think, seems very involved, so I want to make sure there's time for you to talk. But I wanted you to talk a little bit more about Morocco, because I think that, you know, Morocco in the American imagination comes to us as it's very exoticized, and we think of William Burroughs going there and writing Naked Lunch, and we think of Paul Bowles going there and sort of being seduced and staying for 50 years, and, you know, this sort of the myth of Moroccan sexuality and everything is so saturated in those writers and those books. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about your experience, you know, a more personal experience of Morocco.
Okay, so first I love William Burroughs and Paul Bowles, and for me they did good job in Morocco. Yeah. Really good job, because I don't think, I am a Moroccan, and I can tell you that Moroccan boys or women are clever. They can, if they want to give their bodies, because they wanted to. So William Burroughs or Paul Bowles raped no one. I think it's this.
You have a character called Mohammed, I think, in Salvation
in
Army.
Salvation Army. This idea that
is the easy way to make
these
money.
Westerners who come to Morocco and exploit Moroccan bodies and Moroccan has no meaning for me, because I can tell you that Moroccan people are very, very sophisticated with the sexual strategies and energies. Very, very, I mean, just what I just told you, what was happening in my house, gives you an idea. So I want to make this clear, because now in Morocco there is some sort of polemic trying to put the blame on Paul Bowles and that he exploited Morocco. This is, for me, that has no meaning. Paul Bowles found something interesting enough in Morocco, and he went there and he stayed there and he wrote about Morocco and he said bad things about Morocco, and that's good. Why only to say that Morocco is good country, beautiful country, and people are beautiful and we had good cuisine and all these things? I mean, the government is there for that. Why? That was not. It's not Paul Bowles' job. I mean, Paul Bowles was fascinated by the Moroccan craziness. Even Jane Bowles, she was in love with the sorcerer in Sorcière. That was so great. I mean, because in Morocco, no intellectual would go with sorcerer or with the people who are on the street and would make some interest on them. Paul Bowles and Jane Bowles did that, and I'm really so grateful they did. I mean, when I see the picture of Jane Bowles with Sherifa, that was la sorcière, the sorcerer.
Yes.
The sorcerer she was in love with. I feel like this may be somehow for me the image of the link between with culture. And Jane Bowles is such a great writer. I don't know if you read her just two books. She wrote two small books of short stories. She's really great. So why was it? Why am I saying? So. That's to make it clear, because I don't want to be in that position. I'm saying this in order to I don't want to be in this colonial thing. My generation has nothing to do with that. The other generation dealt with that. For me, it's not because more French people were in Morocco or something like that. Of course, there are some relations to that, but it's not my problem. My problem as an individual in Morocco was with the government, with the rich people, why they abandoned us in illiteracy and the poverty, and why only all these rich people controlling everything, and no culture, no books, no etc. And now trying to tell us that what we live in is digne, has some dignity as well. And this life we were living in is interesting too. No one told me that. I only grew up with the idea that I am poor and will always be poor and nothing will happen to me, etc. And if today I write about this first word, my word, it's because I mean, it's very important for me to do it. I feel like it's a duty for me to do it. These people, no one will speak about them, no one will write about them. And more than that, I want to be gay inside of that world. This is the real thing. not to be homosexual inside and supported by rich people in Morocco who were humiliating me when I was a little kid and adolescent. When I arrived to the University of Casablanca, of Rabat, to study French literature, all these girls and boys were coming from the French schools, and they were so arrogant. And like I don't know. And this thing happens even when I come back today in Morocco. Like when they look at me, I feel like they look at me and they tell me you are just poor. So if I decided to learn more French, it's because of that. I wanted to fight, to fight with French language, to fight in French language, and not to be quiet or something. So this is the Morocco I grew up in, and I want to tell in my books, and to be somehow naked in. And when I say naked, it's in all meaning of the terms. I do remember when I was a kid, because we had a crowded house, as I said, so I really was alone in the house. So when that happened, the first thing I used to do is to take off all my clothes. I take them all, and I was naked in the house and making a promenade in the house and going to the bed of my mother and the room of my brother. And so I always had that. It's not exhibitionism. It just maybe it had to deal with that premier homme, that first man I told about earlier. This need to take off the clothes. And I think books, that's what are meant for, I think. That's Morocco. In sense, we had Hassan II, he was tough guy, dictator. He died in 1999. All Morocco cried. But that's normal. We all love our dictators. After a while, because we knew no one. I knew no one but Hassan II. And when he died, I swear I cried. So his son, Mohammed VI, came, and he's le roi des jeunes. And he did two things very, very important. First, he changed the law for women. So women can be free officially. I mean, they can marry by themselves, and no one owned them anymore. That was very, very important. It was a big revolution. The second thing, he did this. The people who were put in jail during the reign of his father, he recognized them, some recognition, and there was like some trial for the people who were who tortured these people, and that was aired live on Moroccan TV. Those things is the most important thing for me in the last 10 years. But during these 10 years, Morocco became much more materialistic, much more about money, much more touristic, much more. They are like trying to make a new Morocco, but destroying so many, many things. And the new things they are coming up with, they are not inspired on anything. And of course, this maybe it's in the whole world. The rich people became rich, but they became much more arrogant. And the poor people, like my family, I feel like they are maybe more poor when I was poor as a little kid, and it's a problem. There is no book left in the houses. In my family, there is no books now anymore, and we still don't have that individual freedom we need. So maybe what is happening now in the Arab world as a revolution, I hope will bring that. But to do that, we have to really, really fight, because they are going to. You got it?
Yes. So I would love to turn it over to questions. I've been asked to tell you that we have microphones going around because they are recording the event. So if you have a question, please wait till you get a microphone so that your question can be recorded for posterity. Anyone? were also vocal during
There is a woman here. There is a woman.
Hello, Abdellah.
Hello.
We've met before in Paris, and I live here in New York, and I do connect very much with what you're saying, and I'm very moved by what's happening in Morocco now. And indeed, they're pulling away from culture and tradition, the real things, and we're moving to something new that has nothing to do with who we really are. And that's very disturbing for me. I want to know are you working on any projects or anything that has to do with bringing our identity alive? Because there are very few people like you who can do that.
Well, thank you. Since the Arab Revolution started in last December, so I wrote several articles to support that, to say what I think. So they were published in France and in Morocco and in the website of Semiotext, my publisher. You translated, I think, the article Le Réveil du Peuple Arabe. Yeah. You did.
No, it wasn't me. It was Nora.
It's Nora. That article is published, and I'm on TV every time I can say that. Because the people in Morocco, the movement, we call it le mouvement du 20 février. It's February 20th movement, and these people really, they are amazing, because I am 37, these people are only 20, 22, 24, 25, and they managed to reunite their energy and to make what was virtual on internet real in the streets. And all that, they were attacked by some people. They're trying to limitate them in some national patriotic thing. They did really a good job, and they somehow forced the king of Morocco, the actual king of Morocco, to make an historic speech where he was saying that there will be some constitutional changes. So we'll see what will happen. I think there is a commission that will give some answers to that next June. So we'll see. But beside that, what is happening in the Arab world in general, and in Morocco in particular, although it seems from outside like Morocco is quiet, Morocco is not quiet at all, because we had like maybe 3 persons who burned themselves, and there is one woman in Souq Sibt, it's near the city of Beni Mellal, called Fadwa Al-Arwi, and we can see the image of when she put the fire and she was walking, this woman all fire and walking in the street. You can see it on YouTube, and there is some young people very inspiring, like Oussama Al-Khalifi, or there's this incredible girl called Zainab Al-Ghazwi, who organized that picnic during Ramadan. She is really great. She organized a picnic during Ramadan, and she invited people on Facebook to join her. That's that may be the most political event ever in Morocco, because no one talks about the fact that we have always the violence from the other people, the religion, the society, the politically correct, and suddenly they were saying, why was she so violent? She could do it quietly. And no one would know. And this, for me, this event, this is really maybe one of the most important things happened in Morocco in the past 10 years. And she's a good writer too, this girl. So she's very much involved with the movement of the 20 février. So what is really happening now in the Arab world is, I don't know how many years it will take to make all these dreams and these hopes come true, but I think we have today something really serious happening, and if we can end up with a free Arab individual living in the streets, living everywhere, that would be something already a good thing, because to push this push away our dictators from their thrones. It's just episode 1. Very soon we'll have the other episode. It's really very, very inspiring what's happening. I'm an Arab, and this is maybe the most important moment of our life for my generation.
Could you tell me a little bit about what your experience was like coming to France from a North African Muslim country, especially in light of the racism and discrimination that happens in France a lot among North Africans? Like when you first arrived, what was it like?
Well, when I first arrived, I found a man in the subway. And he took me with him to his apartment. That helped. A lot, actually, because I fell in love not with him, but with his mother, Simone. So I stayed with him a year and a half, and then I said bye-bye. So beside that, which was very important to experiment, and I think I'm laughing here, but I think I did a bad thing. I discovered I was not that much in love with him, and I don't know what is happening with me, maybe that dictator aura I have. These people I lived with when I was sort of in love, the more I slept with them, the more they was in love with me, and the less I was in love with them. So I had to leave. And of course, when you leave someone, it's he needs or she needs to hate you and to destroy you, which is not normal. She has that right too. So since maybe I think maybe 8 years or maybe 9 years, I'm living with no one. I don't want to repeat that same, because this is an important. I didn't forget your question. Huh? It's very important when you become old. I mean, when you get older, this idea of faire du mal à l'autre, to hurt the other people, we always do. So, and I mean, even when you don't want to, you ended up doing it, and you ended up. I don't know how I always ended up being that bad guy. That Moroccan heartless boy, and so anyway, this is something that I experiment in France, that I can be that, because I was in Morocco as a young man. No one was attracted to me, or no one was falling in love with me or anything. So I had no idea that I could be charming or nice or good looking or sexy or all these things. So I learned to be like that in France, because they told me, I'm not saying compliments here about me, it's just there is this narrow thing when you are as an immigrant, where you are in the Maghrébin, the Muslim, to be seen as just sexual object. They would think because you are gay, you would be that man. And I'm not only that. I can be anything. And that's what I love about homosexuality, actually. It's just that idea that there is no roles, sexual roles. Everything changes. You understood, I hope. I mean, it has to do with and actually, it's not only about homosexuality when you think of it. Sex, to talk about it, this is what we like. I mean, it's what this idea that it's every time there will be some invention that we had, because each body is different, and we have to learn to discover and to invent something for that other body, and so this could be for everyone. But anyway, but to come back to your question, I think I was so much in the idea of going to Paris, and when I arrived there, beside all these cliches that they will put on you as images and labels, I was so much, I had the ambition. I wanted to be in Paris, I wanted to be published, I wanted to be filmmaker, and I wanted to meet people, and I knew what I had to do. I just knew what I had to do. It's just, I didn't, this romantic idea of being a writer and someone discovers you and all these things, maybe it happens for some people, but for most writers, this is, from my experience, it's not true. You have to fight all the time for something and to look for people to get interested in you, to find a publisher when the book comes out, all these things. And just to, and I think it's good to be like that, because that gives you, and I think in America there is no shame of that here, but in France there is still, to say that you have ambition, it's still a problematic thing, like to talk about money. It's still like you are not supposed to talk about money, like you have no problem with money. So I discovered all these things. Of course, I was aware of the racist things, but somehow, the first thing it was the first week when I arrived, this happened. I was going out from a building, and I opened the door, and I wanted to close it, but there was some system that makes the door close by itself. But I didn't know that, so I was just like trying to push it. So women who was living in the building, in that building she just arrived and she stopped and she stared at me, and she said nothing, but from her looks I understood that she was thinking that I was a thief or something. And when she found out that I was living with the boy, that French guy, the son of Simone, and she went to see him, and she said, do you know, I don't know why she thought that I was the gay boy, I don't know. Somehow she thought maybe if there is an Arab boy in the building, must be the gay one. For the gay one. So and she told him that, do you know someone like that? And he told me that she came. And so, of course, at the time, I tried to, I don't know, to not feel that much touched by that. And I think I was right to feel like this is just stupid people and these stupid people will not stop me. But I think I was able to act, to have that attitude because I had this idea to go to Paris, and that Paris is Isabelle Adjani, not this woman. And Paris is these ideas I have about Paris, and I have the right to be there. Somehow, I was feeling more that I am authorized to go to live in Paris and to work for something in Paris than in my country. So all these racist things that is happening, of course, they are, and they still, even today. Somehow I separate myself from them. That's because I had this idea I wanted to do something. And I was there, and I worked for it. And when I say I wanted to do something, doesn't mean I will be a movie star or something. But this idea, that's what I have in my mind, I can do it. And no one will laugh at me. And this is very important. So whatever happens as a racist thing in Paris, I will be always grateful to Paris. Because it's that place that allowed me to be me, sexual, writer, and also to go back somehow to Morocco.
What is the situation for gay people in Morocco nowadays? Is there like a political gay movement? And has life changed for gay people between Hassan II and Mohammed V? Has there been like an improvement, politically speaking, or is there like no gay community as such?
Well, I think internet changed a lot of things. Internet created a gay Moroccan community. And I am one of the heroes of that community. What can I say? You can laugh. And I think really internet give a sense of that you are not alone as a gay Moroccan, because for years I thought that I am the only gay person in Morocco. I mean, can you believe it? I mean, it's a country of Paul Bowles and William Burroughs. It's how come that I did feel that as an I could say to myself, I am homosexual, and that will be it. And I felt I am the only one who is like that. So internet created that community. Now there is this very nice guy called Samir Bargashi, who created a movement called Kif Kif. And Kif Kif means in Moroccan Arabic the same. And it's a good choice, Kif Kif. The same. And he created also 2 years ago the first Arabic gay magazine on website, on internet. And he called it Metly, MethlY. And in the past 4 years, we invented finally a word, neutral word, to say homosexual in Arabic without being discriminal or saying bad things to describe them. And that word, if you don't know it, it's Metly, Metthly. Metly for woman, for a man, Metliya for a woman. And the homosexuality is al-mataliya. And that is huge. I think you can all agree with that we have in the Arab world.
These are brand new words.
Yes. It's really, we invented, now we have the word in the Arabic world to say homosexuality, because before we had just only insults or something like shed jinsi, which means not contre la nature, against nature sexually. This is shed jinsi. But now we have that word, so you can imagine that it's already a revolution. And these things, if this happened, it means that's not only gay people. Of course, it came for gay Arabs, but also the whole society took that word, and now in the newspapers, not all of them, and in TV, this is how we call homosexuals in Arab world. That is very, very, very important. And plus, during the last 10 years in Morocco, homosexuality, and don't ask me why, became an obsession in Morocco. Really, it's so many scandals. The ministers, they arrest. I don't know. Someone outed a ministre Marocain. A newspaper actually outed a minister. And there are so many rumors about this guy, and suddenly homosexuality became hip somehow. But meaning that they were talking about this a lot in the newspapers. They were subjects, dossier, etc. And until what I called our Stonewall event in Morocco. It happened in 2007, November 2007, and it happened in a city called Qasr al-Kbir. It's a city in the south of Tangiers. So what happened, in the Moroccan tradition, there are always men who wears women clothes for some specific occasions. There is one of the things I love a lot about Morocco. It's in the tradition, and everyone knows about it. But because of the Islamist thing, so they try, this is not us. So what happened? There was a guy who organizes a wedding for him and another guy, and he invited his friends. And it was, of course, a fake wedding, but just to play and to have fun. And it was a really small city and very traditional, Qasr al-Kbir. And what happened, a guy Islamist went to that wedding and he filmed that guy and he put it on YouTube. And during 1 month, Morocco talked but nothing about that, in a bad way and in a good way. And it ended up they put on TV during 3 hours live a discussion about that event. And that was huge. That's something very, very, very important. I don't know if it happened elsewhere in the Arab and abroad. Of course, a lot of people were against that. Saying bad things. But just the fact that during a month we were talking about homosexuality, it's already something that makes homosexuality more visible and gives the opportunity to use that word called mitli. But still, until now, any gay Moroccan could go to jail for 3 years old. And what's happening now in the Arab world as a revolution, I hope, will bring that as well. Because these young people who started that in Egypt, in Tunisia, and in Morocco, had nothing to do with religious and extremist people. And that is very, very important. Now, some extremists joined them, and some other people, but we should never forget that the young people who started that are not the ones who are with the extremists, and I hope they will not recuperated by them. I don't know if I answered the question, but...
Any other questions? No?
Good afternoon. First of all, thank you so much. Your courage and your writing are such a gift to the world. I think actually in Sudan last fall there was a marriage between 2 men, and there was a lot of public discussion about it. It was sort of staged, sort of real, but there was discussion. My question is about your faith, with God either personally or with Islam, and how you personally are both Muslim and gay, and then in a wider context, if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
I feel I am a Muslim, and I want to be that. I mean, I don't want to be because I am a writer and I can think and I can criticize things, to say I am not Muslim anymore like my mother used to be, or my sisters, or something like that. I want to stay in that popular way of being Muslim, that way where things were not that much defined, where are so many things that had nothing to do with Islam were in. The way my mother used to invent things to speak to God and to open that window to show us the sky and to bring us to the sorcerers, to the saints. This is for me Islam. It's defining experiences that are in me, that gave me something, that made me somehow me. I mean, because I experienced that, and the way I see somehow the world, without the thinking thing, if I might say, I separate very distinctively myself from the guy who can think and read, and the other boy, and what I lived in. And I want to be Muslim, because for me, just to say Islam is like that, Islam is against that, to repeat all that same things that anyone can tell about Islam. Islam is, but all religions are narrow-minded, if I might say, are restrictive. And of course, what we need in the Arab world and Muslim world is real revolution about Islam, meaning not Islam, not in the power, the separation between religion and the power, and the possibility to be free with the religion, and no one saying you have to be that, you have to be married. Now sexual freedom for heterosexuals and homosexuals, and in the Arab world, unfortunately, it still is. Can't have it's not only about, maybe gay people are more free than heterosexuals somehow, because they now they have to hide, so they construct some places where to go. But until now, heterosexuals are not free. You can't be free with unless you are married, etc., etc. This thing has to be reminded, and because it's a shame that no one can be free as much as he wants with his body. And the other thing is that I think I have that faith in me. Even though when I think, and somehow I ended up with the conclusion, okay, God doesn't exist, when I turned off the lights in the night, he comes back. And that Quran verses came back, and I am just repeating them and saying them, because there is the intellectual part, of course, but there is also the neuroses. How could you deal with that intimate part of you can't even understand? And even if you understand it somehow, okay, God doesn't exist. What I'm going to do after that? I don't have yet that strength to be able until maybe 5 years ago, I couldn't even think without being stopped by the name of Allah. Allah was like just something that couldn't allow me to think more, further. Now I can hide that word and think, and to be freely thinking and criticizing and not be afraid like someone will happen to me, I will go to hell on those things. But in the night time, all these things come back, and that's where but this is only me. This is my experience with the faith, and I think in my books all these things are, even the way to prayers, these prayers that my mother used to invent. For instance, my mother was illiterate, and I already said that to my friend Hedi. Every day in the morning she used to open the window and she used to tell us, come, we are going to talk to the sky. It's very beautiful, don't you think? Because we don't see any, modern people don't look that much at the sky. We look down. But she had that, always that moment, and she opened the window and she invented something to say to the sky. And that things, that prayer, that words he were inventing, we believed in them. It was believable. So that was a literary lesson for me. That meaning that what you write, what you say, has not to be l'art pour l'art, art for art, but has to do with, it has to be here. And for some people that could believe it and hear it. And my mother was talking to the sky. So I will try to do like her.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up. I want to thank Abdellah Taïa so much.